Good afternoon, everyone. It's really good to be here this afternoon with you for Church Connect at Counties. Hey, Phil, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you doing, Darren?
I'm good. It's really good weather. And I know both of you and I are just about to go off on holiday, so I know we're excited.
We're not only excited, we're actually needing it, aren't we? Definitely.
Yes, indeed we are. So we're looking forward to that. But we have got a really, really great feature for you this Friday afternoon. And this whole week, we've been looking at in our daily devotions on Life Connect, we've been looking at the subject of evangelism. And Phil, you're going to share with us that just a couple of things that we've been looking at through the week.
Yeah, it's been really exciting. I look forward, when we knew we were going to do this subject, just putting it together, but also just drawing some really good speakers together, but also ones that have got real heart. So, Ivor Cooper just sharing on what is the good news. I've been an evangelist for so many years, has in fact influenced my life and impacted my life. And, Tim looking at the question of what is evangelism. I guess we started the week really asking the question of why evangelism. We thought that was the important start, because we assume things. And, Darren, you and I were talking about some people, that word evangelism is almost like a dirty word. It's a word that causes embarrassment or fear. So it was important to start the week with that. But then Jackie came in towards the end of the week and just looked at, how do we share this good news? Because that's what we recognize this week. Evangelism is sharing good news. And what is that good news? And how do we go about sharing that? And then finally, just this morning, we were looking, Beverly was helping us look together at what it means to overcome those barriers in evangelism and maybe raise those sort of fears or those questions. I think so often with evangelism is we are fearful because we don't know if we're going to have the answer to the questions that people ask us. Well, that's not a difficulty. If we don't have that answer, just to say to those folks, and we'll talk about Alpha Online later, but that's what we've been doing on Alpha Online. We've been just realizing, I don't have all of the answers that people ask. So learning those things, don't let that be a barrier to actually sharing good news. And it isn't just, as we've been thinking this week as well, it isn't just about what we say, it's about how we live our lives as well. That's really, really important. So that's where we've been going this week. So if you've missed it, go back to Life Connect and have a look at what's been said. But we're going to go straight into an interview with an evangelist who is in Counties as an associate, was in Counties, now also works with Message Trust as well. And so this is Mike Thomas, a few days ago as we interviewed him on this subject. Well, it's great, Mike, to have you here. I do remember meeting you actually many years ago when I came and visited your church in Rumney in Cardiff. And I just remember meeting you as a young man who had a real passion for evangelism. And here's all these years later, including a journey through Counties as well and being part of Counties. Yeah, tell us a little bit about where you come from.
So grew up in Caerphilly, moved to Cardiff when I got married a long time ago now, 22 years this year, and have been in Rumney Chapel in Cardiff since then. So as you said, I think I remember you coming and speaking in Rumney a couple of times. Can't remember the first time that I met you, been there for a long time now. Part of the leadership team there at the chapel, and really kind of, I think probably I would say my heart, saying about evangelism would be for local church, local communities and so on. So we decided to move kind of to the area and go to a church that's kind of within walking and driving distance really, to invite our neighbours and our friends and everyone to local church. So that's where my heart is really, to enable the local church to kind of reach out, evangelise and invite our friends and neighbours along to whatever the church is doing. So
that's great. And your area of Cardiff is east side of Cardiff, northeast side of Cardiff. Tell us, is it a middle class area? Or tell us a little bit about the background of the area.
It's a bit of a mixed bag really. The area that we lived in for the last 17 years is quite a deprived community. There's lots of kind of poverty, deprivation, and that kind of thing. Lots of struggle really. I think the Welsh, the Minister for Wales once described it as a den of single mothers and thieves. So that's the kind of vibe that you get. But you know, for me, living there, getting to know our friends and our neighbours and people around, I love the community and just the kind of sense of togetherness that's there. And we've had a great time living there. But our church is on a bit of a crossroads. So literally kind of you can divide Rumney in half. You've got kind of the private housing on one bit, which is the old Rumney village, if you like, and then the kind of social housing on the other. And the differences between the two halves of Rumney are really, really stark. And that goes throughout the whole of East Cardiff as well, and Rumney, Trowbridge, St Mellons. You know, you get that kind of divided lines between different parts of the community, really. So a bit of a mixed bag, but our focus has always been on the areas that are struggling a little bit more, and we've been able to kind of reach out into those areas quite effectively, I think.
Mike, you've always struck me, and in the years I've known you, just very, very creative. I remember one of the times that you actually got lots of sand down into your car park around your church. Just tell us quick about that, because that was fantastic. We talked about evangelism, as I said, this week, and that was just a very innovative way of connecting with the community. Just tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so I'm working with a local organisation called Rumney Forum. We kind of got together and thought, you know, Bank Holiday Monday, it's a time where people traditionally kind of go out for the day and that kind of thing. But harking back to what we said about, you know, the area that we work in, people don't have a lot of spare cash to be able to do things like that. So we thought, if people can't afford to go to the beach, then why not bring the beach to them? So every year for the last 4 years, I think it is now, we've turned the chapel's car park into a beach. 4 tons of sand, 2 donkeys, bouncy castles, paddling pools, candy floss, donuts, a big barbecue, deck chairs, you know, a sandcastle building competition, knobbly knees competition, which I think you'd win, Phil, if you joined in. So yeah, it's just a great way of kind of getting the community to get used to being around Rumney Chapel and to be able to kind of support them and love them as well. So we have between 400 and 500 people that come along to that every year. Obviously, again, it didn't happen this year, but we're looking forward to already planning for 2021.
Oh, that's exciting. Now, obviously, during this COVID period, you were furloughed for a little while, but as you came out of that, you had, or maybe with Message, you had this idea of doing something around the community that was a bit different. I mean, something to do with a Christmas Santa sleigh. What was that about?
Yeah, so for the last 12 years, I think it is, every Christmas we've been taking Santa's sleigh around the community, and it's kind of grown from just being in Rumney to right the way across East Cardiff, and we've even done stuff in Swansea University with the Christian Union there. We've done it in Wenvo and so on, and it's always really, really well received at Christmas time. We just kind of go around, give out candy canes and invites to local churches to, you know, what they're doing with the Christmas carol services, and just a little message on a card. And you know, we literally, I think last year I bought 13,000 candy canes, and we gave those out. So yeah, so I as you said, I was on furlough from March, from the beginning of lockdown, really. And then around about, I think it was 6 or 7 weeks ago, I had a phone call from my line manager in the Message, Gary Smith, saying, we'd like you to come back to work and kind of help with doing some creative mission during lockdown, you know, across South Wales. And so we got together, had a bit of a brainstorm, and came up with a plan for the week. And the idea being, again, you know, we only work with the local church. We never do stuff by ourselves. And our purpose as the Message really is to support churches to reach out with, you know, to their communities and evangelize. And so we thought, right, you know, what can we do? So on the Monday, we deliver gift bags to around about 300 to 400 houses in the community. So we're really focusing on 8 or 9 streets, really. And then we had this idea that on the Friday, we convert a trailer into a mobile stage and kind of go along and sing Bread of Heaven. Kind of, you can't get a more Welsh song than Bread of Heaven, really, and get people to dress up in their Welsh rugby costumes and give out prizes for the best dressed, and then just share the gospel from the back of the trailer. And that was it. And then we thought, you know, we need something for the middle of the week. And I just thought, you know, I've got Santa's sleigh. It comes out at Christmas. Why not just use it as a way to kind of go around, get people kind of to look out of their doors and go, what on earth is going on? And then give them an invite to the Gospel Roadshow on the Friday. And we've had some amazing responses. I think we were chatting earlier on about, you know, being on Wales Online, the website. So people are just kind of, you know, you knock on their door and give them a candy cane and an invite to the Friday, and then they see Santa, and the look on people's faces, it turns from confusion to joy, and the response that we've had. I mean, if you just Google Santa Caerphilly or Santa Swansea or Gendros, you'll see kind of the responses that we've had online. And it's not, you know, it's not one of those great things where, you know, they come out to the door and you're able to share your faith with them. But it does mean that you know, they come out to their doors on Wednesdays, they see Santa, we invite them to something else on Friday, and they think, oh, do you know what, I will come to that. And we've seen, well, thousands, literally thousands of people out on their doors over the last couple of weeks, right the way across South Wales, and it's been brilliant. And just seeing the joy on people's faces has been really encouraging for the church as well. So.
Yeah, Mike, you know, just thinking about evangelism as we go forward, do you think anything has changed during this COVID? I mean, it's a tough question to ask you, but it has changed? Do you think evangelism is going to be different, or do you think there are things that are going to be similar to the ways we've done things before?
That's a really difficult question to answer, isn't it? I mean, obviously the message that we're sharing is going to be the same, but the methods, certainly in the short term, you know, have to change, so that, you know, we can get out there, still socially distance and so on. You know, I've been really impressed with seeing what churches have been doing, kind of running online alpha courses and all of that kind of stuff. I was talking to a colleague, a friend in work the other day, and he was saying that you know, his home church where he grew up, they've been running 3 alpha courses over a week, and they made an announcement to say, well, we're really sorry, but they're full, so we're going to start a 4th one. You know, and so there's actually, you know, people are interested, I think, in what's going on. They've got lots of questions and so on. But the challenge for the church, you know, is how we do that in a relevant and an interesting way that still grabs people's attention. And I think people are getting a little bit fed up with Zoom calls and, you know, doing stuff online and so on. So it'd be interesting over, you know, certainly in September when the schools start back, you know, whether or not we'll be able to go into schools and kind of, you know, support schools and in what they're doing as evangelists and so on. But yeah, I think it has changed. I think it's enabled the church to kind of take a step back from what they were doing automatically and kind of got into a pattern of doing and thought, right, okay, is that being effective? You know, how else can we work? What else can we do that might be more relevant, that might reach more people, that might, you know, be a different way of doing evangelism, but still with that same passion to see lives transformed.
That's great. Mike, thanks so much for spending some time with us today. I really do appreciate some of your stories and your insights as well, really. So thank you very much for joining us, Mike.
Well, thank you, Mike, for sharing with us there. It's really great to hear about the different ministries you're involved in and what you've been doing on this topic. But that beach extravaganza almost, I mean, Phil, that was amazing. What did you think?
It's fantastic. What I think sometimes we miss out is that so many of our communities and where we are, there are youngsters and families who do not get to go to the sea and don't get to the beach. And I even in Swansea, we live up next to the Gower coast, but I meet children who don't go to the beach. So I think for Mike and the church there in Rumney to do that, it was just, and it was such a great response. And it built relationships. That was the key issue, isn't it? It's just finding maybe we can't do and you can't do with your church something as extravagant as that. But, you know, even just taking a holiday club into a park and doing it there. You know, actually right now at the moment, the government, if you register with the government, you can actually do a holiday club in a park. Okay, socially distanced and all the different risk assessments. But there's a lot more. I was in a park with our grandkids this week and there was things going on in a park. So, but that the beach one sort of tops it all, you know, and you know, that's a great opportunity and a great innovative creative. I know.
Yes, and that's it. It's being creative, isn't it? It's thinking outside of that box. And for me, it really like brought home to the fact that they saw a need and they fulfilled that need.
Yeah.
And they brought the gospel to them. They went to them in their way. You know, they met them on the ground with the need that they had, and they fulfilled it. And I really, really like that. And we're bringing the gospel, and that's what we're about. And we're doing it they were doing that in a really effective, poignant way.
Yeah.
So really great work there.
Fantastic. Yeah, really good.
So next we have today what we like to call the 1 minute wonder. Where we've got 1 minute to learn about a person who's involved with counties, and it's a mystery guest. We don't even know who it is this week, so I'm really excited to learn who we have in 1 minute. So here we go, guys.
One evangelist, 3 questions,
So, Kevin,
60 seconds.
3 questions from 35. That's a tough ask. Anyway, here goes. Do I have a dedicated office space at home? Yes, I have the 3rd bedroom. And yeah, it's very useful, but I have a feeling my grandchildren will steadily steal it from me as the years go by. What did I eat for breakfast? Well, Kim is a guy of routine, so I have porridge every day. Am I an early bird or a night owl? Yeah, I'm an early bird, and that means that my whole morning, including my breakfast, is arranged around a certain framework, and that gives me a bit more freedom to do meeting people and so on preferred in the afternoon. What's your caffeinated beverage of choice? Well, it's coffee, of course, and I have an amazing coffee set up at home. I indulged many years ago, and that has been fantastic, but I don't drink lots as I run out of time. Thank you.
Good.
Oh, wow, that was really great. It's so good to have just those 1 minutes where you just get to really race through, and just it's quite almost like speed dating. You're probably going to cut that bit, Phil, but do you know what I mean? When you just got to learn about someone really fast.
We're leaving that in. I've never done speed dating, but all I can actually say is I'm sure it's kind of hard to think answers to some of those questions, but it's great when we start thinking a little bit deeper of evangelism at this time, really, because I guess with a lot of areas of church, we'd be able to take a step back. And evangelism is important because we're thinking, all right, yes, the message, that does not change, but our methods may. And, it's crucial that we think of not just creative, innovative ideas, but on a day-to-day basis. I think, how do we share faith? Obviously, we've got new subjects matter that start conversations. Coronavirus has done that, COVID has done that. But, how do we do that? How do we encourage people in our local churches to realize that evangelism isn't just an event, or it is something it's something that's part of our life. It's learning to be witnesses of the good news of Jesus that has changed our lives.
Yeah, indeed. And it's something that the COVID situation has really made us look at, particularly as a church, and kind of we may have like evangelistic programs set up and things like that. Those have all been cancelled, and then we've had to really dig deep into the heart of the culture of evangelism in our church. And then how do we do that online? It's a brand new way of thinking for us. There's other churches out there who've been doing it for longer. But I feel there's so many churches now. This is just new territory for all of us.
Yeah. And there are some great Christian chat programs that we have. We've had that early on in Church Connect, right at the beginning about Church Connect. But also, coming back to that, I think one of the things we've just coming to the end of an alpha online right now at the moment. We're on the 12th or 13th video, and it is encouraging. Early on in June, I think there were about 1,500 online alphas going on in just a couple of weeks that were happening. I checked out with Christianity Explored, which is another one that you can do online. And what they were saying is that in some ways they've learned some lessons. Someone was writing in and saying, look, it's not that different. And it is quite surprising how together you can actually feel online, which I found really, really encouraging. And we've certainly found more people signing up for that. But I'm sure there are pitfalls as well when we think of doing things online. Anything that particularly comes to your mind that we've got to be aware of or careful of when we're doing things online?
Oh, definitely. I mean, there's so many safeguarding issues, like practical issues when it comes to doing things online, you know, keeping your Zoom links safe, not sharing them publicly, making sure that your rooms are secure, whichever platform you use. I'm just speaking about Zoom because that's what we use at the moment, making sure your passwords are in place, asking people to have their full name as their title, as you can see, before they log in, so that you can see them in the waiting room and you only admit people that you know. So it's all about keeping safe. But then it goes on further than that, not only about online safety, which we could talk about forever, but it's about how do you establish relationship online? Yeah. Because even when we're in church and we're meeting face to face, there's an element that we can project. There's bits of our personality that we can put on display, and it takes a while for us to get to know each other, for us to be comfortable to share those other elements that we might not be quite happy with. And then when you're online and you've just got this little screen, I mean, you know, all you can see of my home life is what I let you see. And, you know, you can see your books there, Phil. That's what you've let me see. And then behind my screen is the chaos of motherhood, let me tell you. But it's like that with our personalities. And online, it's even harder. How do we establish that relationship? Really get to know people and get to know the heart of people. And especially when they're new to the church. It's not impossible, but it's about being aware of that and really, really spending time. And I think it will take longer. What do you think, though?
Yeah, I think so. We've noticed even in the breakout rooms you do on an online course, which I guess is the experience we've had, is even in that, when you break them in and they get to know you over a few weeks, they get to know people, but it's sometimes hard being creative because you say there is a distance that people put up there. So I think it's going to take longer from that perspective. And when I do an Alpha or Christianity Explored in a room or in a coffee shop, you know, there's a lot more that you're sharing very, very quickly. I think it's just different. And, you know, in other ways, there are certainly folks that feel more comfortable. We definitely found that come into an online evangelistic course or experience than, you know, that initial step of coming. They'd rather come online than rather come into a room where immediately, as you say, there's a lot more of their lives are on view, if you like.
Mm-hmm. And then also you've got your pros of it being more accessible for those who have computer, only accessible in those who are, you know, with technology. There's a whole area there of those who don't. But, you know, there's no traveling and things like that. So it is easier for people. And like you say, it can be less daunting. But then, you know, there's that whole cohort of people outside of that. So we've still got to merge the two. And then that becomes a sustainability issue as well. How do we as churches manage to do both? Yeah, no, that's right. I wonder if it'd be good if we could, in a few minutes, we'll just bring in somebody else. I think Tim would be great just to bring in on this, because I think it's a big question of, well, how does evangelism go forward? And I'm sure he's not going to have all the answers, but maybe just some thoughts to share together as a group of how does evangelism change, or is evangelism going to change, or what sort of things should we expect? Maybe difficulties, but maybe more opportunities that will come coming out of this period as churches begin to open up. So Tim, thanks for joining us. We were having a great time talking about evangelism, but we were talking about just raising that question: how do you think evangelism, or is evangelism going to change as we come out of this, as churches begin to open up and as lives begin to open up, as society begins to open up? Do you think things are going to change?
Yeah, no, it's good to see you, Phil, and Darren. Honestly, we're kind of crystal ball gazing here, aren't we? And trying to sort of guess how it's going forward, and we can all look very foolish in 12 months' time. But I think there's a couple of things that I see developing and happening. And one is, obviously we're now sort of coming out of lockdown, but COVID-19 hasn't gone away. And, you know, we're seeing areas like Manchester and other parts of Yorkshire, which have suddenly had to be re-locked down, and Leicester and those kind of things. So we're going to, until we get either a cure or a vaccine for COVID-19, or it just fizzles out in some other way, there's going to be that ongoing sort of tension with COVID-19. And obviously that then impacts the church, what we're allowed to do in terms of in-person and what we're not allowed to do. And it may fluctuate. And obviously every church will then have a different view on the amount of risk they're willing to take, or they think is wise to take. So that's one whole area. But then I think also the big thing for me here is, it feels to me a little bit like when the printing press was first invented, and suddenly Bibles were printed, and they're printed in English and in people's own language, rather than just the priest being able to read out a Latin Bible and no one understood what he was saying. And whilst the internet has been around for 20 plus years, probably 30 years, but certainly 20 years sort of accessible to most people, I think there's certainly been a massive shift which has been forced on us as churches to actually engage seriously with the internet. And I think we as a church in Forest of Dean, you know, we probably typical a lot of churches where we had an internet presence, we had Facebook, we had a website, but it was kind of always an afterthought. So it was like we did all the other stuff, and then if we have time, we put it online, which meant that not a lot of stuff went out online, and sometimes it could be a bit late and not particularly great quality all the time anyway. And now we're starting to see this as our front door. And, you know, we're getting people contacting us who we've never met in the flesh, but actually are watching and viewing online. I'm going into local shops in the area, and people are recognizing me, and I have no idea who they are. And they're saying, oh, I've seen you online. And it's kind of a bit scary, but it's a new world. And it's creating a wider audience, an audience which is have shorter attention spans. So suddenly, you know, we can't do things how we would in a room. So there's a whole new world which I feel that we've got to engage with, and God's gifted it to us, and it's enabling us. You know, people can come and sort of sit in our doorway, as it were, watching without us knowing they're there, and they can feel really anonymous. And if they just don't like what they hear or see, or they're getting bored or whatever, they can just switch off and make a cup of tea. You know, that's their choice, and they're not offending anyone because we don't even know they're there. So all that creates tension for us as churches, because for us as a church, we're going to be investing seriously in online activity post-lockdown. And so we're going to be saying, actually, we could well have a church which is as many people who feel part of our church online as the ones actually we see physically in front of us. And how do we disciple these people online and all this kind of thing? So we haven't got the answers. We know the questions. We know there's tools out there we can use. So we're just saying, this is feels like a God moment where he's shaking things. He's forcing us to move in new directions. But actually, I think we're going to see a massive harvest on the back of this. I mean, just only yesterday, someone contacted me to say that someone that we've been known from the church for years has suddenly started reading their Bible. And they said, you know, this person said, you know, I'm not taking the mickey. You know, this person isn't the kind of person that would normally read the Bible. They said, I'm reading the Bible, and actually I'm going through Leviticus, and I'm loving it. And my family is seeing a difference in me since I've been reading through Leviticus. I mean, how amazing is that? So God's doing something significant, and we have to embrace it and run with it. And the message doesn't change, the gospel doesn't change, but the tools we use definitely are changing. And so just like printing press created new opportunities for written word, internet is creating new opportunities for us to connect straight into people's homes and comparatively cheaply.
Oh, well, thank you, Tim. It's quite interesting how you've been talking there about how we've had to kind of make this shift over and to online and it not be an afterthought. And obviously we're in the same church, so I can share a bit more about that. And it's something that it's really hit home to us that it's not just about evangelism online. We're actually having to be online for our church as well, for our congregation that we already have. So we're maintaining church, but we want to do more than just maintain church. We want to be, having community with our church. We want our church members to be growing, to be developing into, disciples in their very own right. So the things that you can do online, we've managed to put we have 4 gears, 4 stages, courses that we do for our members online. We're teaching online all the time. All our home groups are online so that we're having that community and that fellowship with one another. And then obviously we've got things like Sunday services online, but just trying to stay in constant contact should people need us. We've also done things that are more creative or just enjoyable things, like we've got a creation watch in a Facebook group, and we've got a Facebook group, reading the Psalms together, book clubs, practical projects for the things that you're doing at home. So it's giving a rounded approach, and the evangelistic element of it needs to be there. It's definitely a dual-edged sword here, because we need to be sharing the gospel simply by being church and being church online as well. So
it's challenging, but I think it's incredibly fascinating and exciting, really, as we move forward as fellowships and as believers, disciples as well. It's great being able to share this time together with you all, and we hope you've appreciated or been able to take something away, an encouragement or a challenge or a new idea, and that's been brilliant, and to have you with us on Church Connect. And as we've got Tim here, Tim, you're organising next week's Church Connect and all the Life Connects that go with it as well. So give us a wee taster, as it says, of next week.
Yeah, next week we've got a really special week lined up. So you don't want to go on holiday, or if you do, you want to listen to it on the beach. 8 o'clock every morning, we have Victor Jack, who's an absolute legend at Counties. So if you know Victor, I know you'll want to be there. If you don't know Victor, you will definitely want to be there 8 o'clock every morning, and he will unpack a whole range of obviously Bible-based messages for us. And then at 12:30 next Friday, we will just explore the issues which are raised, and we have 2 really special guests who are in the Counties fold who are going to join us. So Beverly Bedford and myself will be hosting that. So really look forward to seeing you then.
Fantastic. Thank you, folks. Every blessing. Take care.
Bye.
See you soon. Bye-bye.